Hello everyone, welcome to the PIV analysis for 16th of July. This was a Sunday, so news was not too much, but very important. I am covering a very important topic today, which is GM mustard controversy. I will tell you what are living modified organism. I will tell you what is genetically modified crops, genetically modified food. So pay attention. If you want to prepare for UPSC, then our test series is right now the best selling. In fact, in the last 15 days, this test series has outperformed every other course. So a lot of people are buying it and benefiting. So we have the first exam on 3rd of August, and we have our pen drive course, which is prepared by some of the best faculty, and all the course is prepared in the form of video lectures. You can watch indefinite times. If you want to buy any of the two, then go to our website studyiq.com. Can you identify this ship? This ship participated in the Malabar War Games from Indian side, and it is named after a big ruler, famous ruler of the past. Can you name the first person who answers? I will congratulate that person. Okay, let's start. President of India, now of course it is Ramnath Kovind, but he is president-elect because officially still the president is Pranab Mukherjee. So he got a book written by Professor C. Rajkumar, who is Vice Chancellor of JG University. This book was presented to him by Nobel laureate economist Amartya Sen. And the book is Future of Indian Universities, Comparative and International Perspective. This is about the Indian universities, how they compare vis-a-vis the entire world and things like that. How we can focus on education, different perspectives about universities. This is covered in the book. Now, monsoon session has started. And in monsoon session, there will be 19 sittings and total 26 days. So our Parliamentary Affairs Minister, Shri Anant Kumar, he is also the Minister for Chemical and Fertilizer. He informed about the monsoon session, and before monsoon session, there was an all-party meet where Pradhan Mantri Narendra Modi, he requested all the parties to not cause ruckus in the Parliament, to not disrupt the sessions, and we can have very effective talks. So he also said that this time, that this time in 2017 budget was on 1st of February. Usually it is on 1st of March. So we had a preponed budget. Because of that, there is fiscal prudence. That means it has actually benefited. So for example, government has already spent, according to the CAG, Comptroller General of Accounts, CGA, the expenditure in April and June, that is the first quarter of this year, has seen 30% more expenditure than the same time previous year. And capital expenditure in infrastructure related projects has gone up by 48% over the previous year. So this is all because of the preponing of the session. The Prime Minister also urged all the leaders. See, 1942 we used to have the Quit India movement. So now it has completed 75 years. So there will be 75th anniversary that will be celebrated in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha on 9th of August. And he also said, let's together fight corruption. And he also said that killing in the name of cow is not tolerable. And total there will be 19 sittings, 26 days of work, and 21 bills are pending in Lok Sabha, 42 bills are pending in the Rajya Sabha. Now you know about the types of bills: Constitutional Amendment Bill, Finance Bill, Money Bill. So I'm sure you know about all the bills. For a ordinary bill, it can be presented in any house. Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. And you need a simple majority. Also, if it is stalled in any house, then we have a deadlock. It is not sent to the president, and it needs to be passed by both the houses to be sent to the president. Then we have a money bill, which is only introduced with the permission of our president in Lok Sabha only. Rajya Sabha has no say. It can only defer it back to Lok Sabha. It can only suggest recommendations, and Lok Sabha is not bound to have those recommendations, honor those recommendations. Then we have a constitutional amendment bill. Now in money bill also you require a simple majority. Constitutional amendment bill you require a special majority, not simple majority, and president has to give assent to this bill. President is duty bound to give assent to the constitutional amendment bill, and you require a special majority. For constitutional amendment bill you cannot have a joint session. So these are some things that can be asked in MCQ. Let's come to the main topic for today. But before that, our Air Chief Marshal, the Chief of Air Staff, Birendra Singh Dhanwar, he visited France. France is an important strategic partner. With France, we also conduct a military exercise called Varuna. And from France, we are also buying Rafale, important fighter jets Rafale, which are very powerful. 36 jets we are buying, worth 59,000 crore rupees. Then our Agriculture Minister Radha Mohan Singh, he attended 89th Foundation Day of Indian Council of Agriculture Research, ICAR, and he said that if we compare 2017 and 1951, now the food grain production in our country has increased 5 times, fish production 14 times, milk production almost 10 times, egg production 47 times. So we have taken huge leaps, huge strides in the agriculture productivity. And in the horticulture sector, that is fruits and vegetable, we are since 1991, our fruit and vegetable have increased 3 times. 1991, please note, was the year when we adopted liberalization of economy. And 122 awards were presented for excellence in 19 various categories. Like 3 institutes were given award, 12 research projects which are called All India Coordinated Research Project or AICRP, 12 Krishi Vigyan Kendra. Krishi means agriculture, Vigyan means science, Kendra means center. 19 farmer and 80 scientists were honored, including 30 women. So Krishi Vigyan Kendra are what? They are basically agriculture areas. They are managed by the Indian Council for Agriculture Research, ICAR. So they are like agriculture extension center which also carry out research activity, and they are mostly at the district level to provide farm support to the agriculture sector. The first Krishi Vigyan Kendra was opened in Puducherry, then it was called Pondicherry in 1974. And since then it has grown to be the largest, one of the largest networks in the country. Krishi Vigyan Kendra provides a lot of farm support like farm advisory, training program for different category of people, training program for extension functionaries, auxiliaries, frontline demonstration, on-farm testing. So a lot of things are done in Krishi Vigyan Kendra. And Shri Radha Mohan Singh said that agriculture and allied sector, they contribute gross value added 18% to the GVA growth. And lot of area has been brought under irrigation now, as high as 2.85 million hectare under irrigation. This he said, a lot of measures have been taken, and the target for 2012 to 2018 is 2.85 million hectare. And he said that to this much assistance, 42 billion US dollar, 2,87,000 crore rupees assistance has been given to the village panchayat and municipality, and to provide electricity to the villages, this amount has been allocated. Then he said 2 important initiatives have been taken: soil health card scheme and Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana. Soil health card, you already know that soil is tested and then whatever is deficient is written on the card, and then farmer can apply the fertilizer accordingly. Paramparagat means traditional. So traditional Krishi Vikas Yojana means we will apply some traditional method of organic farming also, so that the input cost of the farmer can be reduced. Now let's talk about the essay topic for today. Before I start that, let me tell you what is genetic engineering, and I'll give you a very important example. First, you should understand what is a gene. So, do you know what is DNA? It is the genetic material, no? Genetic material in our body is DNA, deoxyribose nucleic acid. Now, DNA is condensed in our body, and so this is the entire DNA. It is condensed in the form of chromosome. So, chromosome is nothing but condensation of DNA. And one chromosome is this. There are total 46 chromosomes in our body. 44 are body chromosome, which are called autosome. Then 2 are called sex chromosome, X and Y, which are called allosome. Now, a part of chromosome is, small part of chromosome is called gene, which carries character. That is why gene is called unit of heredity. So, for example, you must have noticed that sometimes the children, they resemble their father or mother. Why? Because there is a transfer of genes. That is why gene is called unit of heredity. So what happens is, if you transfer gene, then what happens? One is natural process from parents to offspring, but sometimes you interfere with the natural process. I'll give you an example. See, in India, lot of farmers grow cotton. Okay, cotton is mostly grown in the Maharashtra, in Gujarat, in Andhra Pradesh, Deccan Plateau, Malwa Plateau, and Kathiawar Plateau. But it is also grown in Punjab, Haryana, Western UP. It's nothing like that. Okay. Now, cotton is grown in black soil also, and normal soil also, with the help of fertilizer. So in Andhra, in Maharashtra and these areas, Madhya Pradesh, you have black soil. Lot of black soil in the Deccan Plateau belt, in the Malwa Plateau belt, that is Madhya Pradesh, and in Kathiawar in Gujarat. However, in the north, farmers of India, they were troubled by bollworm. It is an insect which is called bollworm. So what used to happen? There is a field, farmer has grown cotton on the entire field used to be digested by bollworm. There was immense loss. Cotton growers faced immense loss because of bollworm, and agriculture became unsustainable. Then came a new technology. What the scientists did in America, they took a bacteria. The bacteria was called Bacillus thuringiensis. Thuringiensis, thuringiensis. And bacillus simply means a bacteria which is like a rod-shaped bacteria. So Bacillus thuringiensis, they took out the gene and they inserted into the cotton plant. And Bacillus thuringiensis in short is called BT. So this became BT cotton. So BT cotton is nothing but a cotton which has extra gene of a bacteria called Bacillus thuringiensis. And this cotton was bollworm resistant. So this cotton was introduced in India in 2002. This cotton was introduced in India in 2002 and it became a rage among farmers. Everybody wanted to use BT cotton. Why? Because you don't have to worry about bollworm. And what will happen if you don't have to worry about bollworm? Number one, you have mental peace, you have financial more security, and you use less pesticide because it is a worm, it is an insect. So to kill it, you use pesticide. So if pesticide product cost of farmer will also be less. And the company also claimed that it will grow more cotton. That also you will get more money. So farmers were like, we will grow BT cotton only. And in the entire country, BT cotton spread like wildfire. Today, 15 years later, it was introduced in 2002, no? So in 2017 today, 95% of cotton that is grown in India is BT cotton. Now what we are seeing tremendous side effects of using BT cotton. What are those side effects? Let me explain to you once and for all. We have seen that farmers who grow BT cotton, if we see their fields, now only BT cotton grows. Normal cotton does not grow. Organic cotton does not grow. Now we want to take India towards organic farming, but normal cotton, desi cotton, what you call indigenous cotton, does not grow. Second problem. Okay, bollworm is not there, good, but there is white fly. And this white fly in Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, it has completely collapsed the fields, BT cotton fields. So white fly now is a bigger danger than bollworm. So ultimately, did BT cotton help us in the long term? No, it didn't. Third problem is a problem of sovereignty of the country. See, the BT cotton seeds are provided to us. They are patent, right? So we can only buy them from Monsanto, the company that did the R&D for it. Now Monsanto has been making money. It has been earning crucial foreign exchange from India. And the entire India now, 95% of the cotton is grown of Monsanto seeds. Tomorrow if Monsanto says, I will not provide you seeds, then what will happen? Farmers cannot go back to the normal cotton because the fields are used to BT cotton now. So Monsanto will decide how much cotton will grow in India, when you will grow the cotton, and tomorrow it can completely cut off the cotton seed supply. So the sovereignty of the country is compromised. Another danger, these companies like Bayer, Monsanto. So another problem with BT cotton. Another problem with BT cotton is that, see, BT cotton, there is something known as a weed. Let's say I grow a plant, I grow a tree. Now some unwanted trees, unwanted plants come up. They are called weeds, and we don't want these plants because they compete with the original plant for the nutrients in the soil, like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and soil has limited nutrients. That is why the weeds are not needed. Weeds, we kill it using chemicals called herbicides. Okay. Now we have seen after growing of BT cotton, there are something known as super weeds. They have emerged in nature, and these super weeds are not even killed with herbicide. Okay. Now I'll tell you something which is a fundamental rule. There is a saying in English, you deviate from nature, you deviate from happiness. Be as natural as possible. And I'll give you an example. See, in pregnancy, the women, they vomit. They do lot of vomiting. Okay. Of course, they don't like it, but you have to vomit, right? Because there is a hormonal imbalance in the body during pregnancy. So women vomit. Now what happened in Europe in the 50s and 60s and some time back? Some scientists said that we have made a drug. That drug is called thalidomide. If you take this drug, you don't have to vomit. So women were like, okay, good. This has come to our rescue. They started consuming thalidomide. Now the kids that were produced, the offspring, they had sealed limbs. Their body was underdeveloped. Their legs were underdeveloped. They had huge mental and physical defects in the body. This is one of the examples. The great thalidomide disaster of the 60s or 50s, somewhere it was in Europe. So that is how you, now what you are doing in GM mustard and BT cotton and GM brinjal and all these, you are interfering with the genetics. You are completely changing the crop at the gene level only. So obviously in the long term there will be effects, and now we have seen these effects in India. That time, yes, every farmer was happy because of bollworm. But what will you do of now whitefly, which has come? What will you do of super weeds? What will you do of your food security, agriculture security, which is now held ransom by companies like Monsanto? So these are important questions that they need to be addressed. Now what is happening with GM mustard, I'll tell you. First, a question, a difficult one. Nagoya Protocol is an international agreement which aims to ensure the safe handling, transport and use of LMOs, living modified organism, resulting from modern biotechnology that may have adverse effects on biological diversity, taking into account risk of human health. Now you know that the BT cotton can have effect on lot of biodiversity. We have seen its side effects. So one thing that was said is that since these genetically modified crops and living modified organism and all these are produced in the developed countries first, like Monsanto did in America, and then they are transferred to the developing country like Africa and India and Philippines. So therefore the transport and the handling of these living modified organisms should be safe so that there are no adverse effects. This was said in the Nagoya Protocol. So this is wrong. This is not the Nagoya Protocol. This is the Cartagena Protocol. So Cartagena Protocol is about the living modified organism, not the Nagoya. Second question, the Helsinki Declaration is an international agreement which aims at sharing the benefit arising from the utilization of genetic resources in a fair and equitable way. So you use the genetic resources, all right. Whatever the benefit is there, you should distribute it between the stakeholders in a fair and equitable way. This was the Helsinki Declaration. Again, this is wrong. This was the Nagoya Protocol. So both the statements are wrong. In fact, convention and protocol, this chapter is very important. Most important chapter if you ask me, and I have covered this in I think more than 4 hours in our course. Now let's come to GM mustard. So in North India, like in Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, there we eat makka ki roti and sarson ka saag, which basically means the chapati is made from makka. Makka is maize, and sarson ka saag means the saag, well, the vegetable that you eat with the chapati is made from sarson. Now sarson is nothing but mustard. You have mustard oil also. Some use it for massage, some use it for cooking and all. So these are some important uses of mustard. Now the controversy is that there is a new mustard. It is again a hybrid which is called Dhara GM mustard hybrid 11 or DMH11. It is developed by scientists of Delhi University with the scientist Deepak Pental in the lead. DMH11 is the GM mustard. It is the herbicide tolerant mustard received the green signal from Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee, GEAC. Now herbicide tolerant means what? That weeds will not be there. Because one disadvantage of a mustard plant is that there are weeds also. Weeds won't be there, so it is herbicide. So you don't have to use herbicide. Now, what is the disadvantage of it? What is the controversy? DMH11, it is herbicide tolerant, but you have to spray Basta. Basta is a herbicide, and this augments the effect of the anti-herbicide thing that the DMH11 has. But the problem is this, Basta has a chemical which is called glufosinate, and this chemical is very, very similar to glyphosate. And World Health Organization has said that glyphosate is a carcinogen, which means it causes cancer. And there is immense evidence from Argentina. It is incontrovertible evidence, irrefutable evidence from Argentina. They used to grow GM soybean, genetically modified soybean, and which it was called Roundup Ready soybean. Now it has shown birth defects in children. Whoever consumed this soybean, there are birth defects in children. So, and now this Basta herbicide is very similar to this glyphosate. It has glufosinate. it is a neurotoxin on the same platform as glyphosate. So is it good for us? And who manufactures Basta? It is manufactured by Bayer, and Bayer acquired Monsanto. Now let's come to very fundamental problem. 78% of rural women who are in agriculture and allied sector, their source of livelihood is weeding, which means manual weeding. Manually you take out unwanted plant. That is called weeding. 78% Indian women who are in farming, they get their livelihood from manual weeding. Now you are saying that this is herbicide tolerant. That means there will be no weeds, no? So if there are no weeds, these women are not required. What will happen to their livelihood? Even if you apply 25% of GM mustard in India, that is of all the mustard that is grown in India, 25% is GM mustard, it will lead to loss of lakhs and crores of livelihood of our women. Now I'll give you another example. There was GM brinjal that was said to be ruled out, but earlier they were trying to peddle it. So it was peddled by Mahiko, which is again a company owned by Monsanto during Congress government. And the Chief Justice, Y.K. Sabharwal, he is no more, but that time, he said that there should be an independent committee, expert committee, who can examine GM brinjal. And the committee was formulated by the Center for Sustainable Agriculture, Hyderabad. The committee found lot of lapses in the field data, laboratory biosafety evaluation, and submitted a report to the Supreme Court. And since then, GM brinjal has not been able to come to India. Okay, there was an indefinite moratorium. Moratorium means suspension of an activity. So GM brinjal, which was supposed to be launched, did not get launched and stands till date. So you see here that the laboratory test and everything are also kind of doctored. Now what these companies do, Monsanto and all, they give huge money in corruption to these scientists that you peddle this crop. Because Monsanto, can you imagine how much money it will be earning right now? 95% of BT cotton in India, 95% of cotton in India is BT cotton, and it is seeds are provided by Monsanto. Can you imagine? It's billions of dollars. So they can give millions of dollars to scientists in corruption. And it was seen by this committee that this is actually the case. The field data trial, there were lapses in the laboratory biosafety evaluation. So we have to be careful. Now let's talk about environment safety. So I already told you, BT cotton came to India in 2002, and this was because of bollworm. It was resistant to bollworm, and therefore it also relieved farmer of using pesticide. But farmers need not use pesticide. But after 15 years now, what we have seen, that 2.5 times chemical fertilizers we have to use. Okay, now let's say you save some money in pesticide, but you have to use 2.5 times the money now, because the soil fertility has been compromised by growth of BT cotton. And where you grow BT cotton, now normal cotton does not grow. Another problem. So this is not environmentally sustainable, because the more chemical fertilizers you put in your fields, your farms, more greenhouse gas emission are there. And that is why more greenhouse gas emissions are not environmentally sustainable. This is the first and major disadvantage of BT cotton. Number one, more chemical fertilizer you have to use. Cotton has, the soil fertility has been compromised. Climate change has been accentuated. Now, another problem I told you, white fly attack. Bollworm, all right. But what about white fly? So white fly devastated cotton fields in Punjab, Western UP, and there is no solution to this white fly. The question of farmer livelihood and Indian sovereignty, I will explain to you. Monsanto controls whether cotton can be grown in India or not, and to what level. And I mean, you are just putting our country at risk. 95% of the cotton seeds are controlled, and they are controlled by Monsanto. And also farmer livelihoods, because rural women, so manual weeding is a source of livelihood for 78% of rural women in India who are poor. And this will of course threaten. So the poorest women of the country, they stand to lose a fight, not of their own making. Now let me tell you some other important fact. Farmers have been given a lollipop that you grow GM mustard. When government wants to launch something, it tells farmers this is beneficial for you. Farmers, poor farmers of India, they ask why. So government is saying, if you grow GM mustard, then what will happen? Weeds will be less. You don't have to use herbicide. Very similar arguments that they gave during BT cotton. Bollworm won't be there. But now they are saying that if you grow GM mustard, your 20 to 25% growth will be more. Productivity will be more. So because of this, more mustard you can grow. And if we grow more mustard in our country, we need to import less, because now India is importing worth 70,000 crore rupees of oil from abroad, edible oil. Our country does not produce enough oil. We have to buy it from Malaysia, Indonesia. Now, most of the oil, in fact, 60% of the oil is palm oil or palmolene oil. The only difference between palm oil and palmolene oil is that palm oil is more solid, semi-solid at room temperature, and palmolene is complete liquid. So the most widely used edible oil, the frying oil in India is the palmolene oil. All that is imported. So farmers are being told, when we will have full oil security, the cooking oil security in India, we don't need to import. We can save lot of money. But let me come to the inside story now. Most of the edible oil that we import is palmolene oil. It is not mustard oil. And for this, forests are being destroyed in Malaysia and Indonesia. Again, this is causing a lot of, the animals to become vermin, in the sense that the animals in Indonesia which grow on trees, which live on trees, like orangutan, and I mean, there are a lot of animals, and there are a lot of documentaries you can see how the palm oil consumption in India and other countries, it is causing environmental damage in Malaysia and Indonesia. So 60%, and palmolene oil is unhealthy also, as shown by a lot of laboratory tests also. And our import bill, yes, it is 70,000 crore of edible oil, but we need to find other ways rather than pushing GM mustard, saying that our import bill will be less. Next, we have our own indigenous ways to grow more mustard. Then why do we require GM mustard? For example, Madhya Pradesh Agriculture Department, they have a method which is called mustard intensification, whereby, just by altering the distance between the mustard and by reducing the agriculture practices such as changing the distance between plant, then reducing the quantity of input like water, etc., you can have more productivity. So why do we need then mustard? For example, take the example of China. China has the best mustard yield, and it is non-GM. In China, we don't have GM mustard. So, and China has the best yield of mustard. Then we have, instead of genetically modifying, we have a technology called CMS technology, which is called cytoplasmic male sterility. It is much safer to use than compared to GM. So this technology can also be tried instead of GM mustard. Some of the things are irreversible of genetic engineering, as we have seen. Now we are saying that it will help because there will be less weeds, but who knows after 10 years. So we have to be really sure, because a lot of this genetic engineering technology is irreversible and uncontrollable, as we have seen in the case of BT cotton. 95% of the world's genetically modified crops are grown in only 5 countries. Let me give you an example of European Union. America, they approved more than a dozen GM crops in 1996-97. But there was a research by the Hungarian scientist Arpad Pusztai. He said that it is not good for health, and then entire European Union banned it. So how will America earn now? It started pushing GM crops in India, Africa, the poor countries, Philippines and Bangladesh and all these countries, and started bribing scientists, started bribing politicians, and that is how they kind of make money. Now, Supreme Court asked the government, what is your stand on GM mustard? Because now there in India, the GM mustard thing is catching like a wildfire. There have been demonstrations against GM mustard by farmer groups, by NGOs, by lobbyists, by organizations. So government said to Supreme Court on 17 July that it has not taken any decision on GM mustard so far. It is still contemplating. They said it to Chief Justice J.S. Khair and Justice D.Y. Chandrachud. And our additional Solicitor General Tushar Mehta, he informed the Supreme Court, Honorable Apex Court, from the government side. So I hope now you have a very good clarity. Some of you may find me a bit non-neutral today, that you are against GM, but I think that we should call a spade sometimes. And I hope you are enjoying the coverage of PIB. Okay, thanks.